Hello everybody and welcome back. It is Michael from Hollow Pearls back with another video, and today we are going to be going over our HHN 33 hype list. Yes, everything has finally been announced for this year's Halloween Horror Nights in Orlando. So we're going to be going through all 5 scare zones as well as all 10 houses for this year's event and breaking down each one and giving my opinions on whether or not I am more or less hyped for it. So before we get anything, please make sure you subscribe and have the bell notifications turned on to get notified whenever I post a video. And also make sure you're following both Instagram and Twitter. The links are down in the description below. But without further ado, let's head into our scare zones first as I give a little bit of my opinion on what my top 5 are for this year. So we're going to start off with number 5, and this is one that I don't really have a lot to go off of for it. And the details that we've gotten for it so far aren't really interesting me too much, and it just feels way too similar to a scare zone that we got last year. So at number 5, I'm putting Demon Queens. Now, this could go up or down based on what we actually see, but like I said, as of right now, we don't have a lot of props out in the street. We have one piece of concept art about what the 4 queens look like, as well as Surreal. But as of right now, we don't really have much of an idea of what this zone is going to look like. And to me, as of right now, it's just feeling really similar to the zone from last year. So I'm not really too hype on this one. And this one is in Hollywood, which is a shame because that's normally one of our better zones. So, I mean, I could be wrong, but as of right now, it is just looking way too similar to the horoscope zone that we have last year. The name of it is escaping me for the time being, but yeah, that one I'm putting at number 5, Demon Queens. But let's move on to number 4. So number 4 is gonna be that front zone, which this year is Duality of Fear. Now, the only reason I'm putting this at 4 is just because it has a lot of potential to be good. Now, everything that we're hearing about it, with it being kind of a choose your path type of zone, does interest me. I don't know if we're actually gonna see like anything stretched down the middle of Minions Alley, or if it's just kind of going to be what we got last year, which was that front section as well as a little bit off to the right. We'll have to see, but there is just more potential for this for me to enjoy it this year. And it really seems like they're kind of going in a way of keeping this zone as more of an icon zone, at least from last year and now this year. So it does interest me more than the ones we've gotten in the past, where they're just your normal, like, you know, picture zones. So this one, it does interest me, and like I said, does have that kind of potential to be great. But let's head on to number 3 and head into the Blumhouse. So I am a huge Blumhouse fan. I really love a lot of their movies. I love Freaky, I love The Black Phone, I loved Happy Death Day, not the second one, but the first one was pretty decent. Insidious is absolutely terrifying. I loved Five Nights at Freddy's. I loved the new Halloween franchise they did. So I am just really into Blumhouse, which is why I am higher on this than other people might be. But for me, this sounds awesome, and I love the fact that they have different sections throughout that zone, tailored to different videos, tailored to different movies like Black Phone and Purge and all of that. So I'm definitely interested, and I'm interested to see how they're going to work in the Megans, because they are supposed to be in this zone. So I don't know if maybe they're going to have their dance show in here, but we'll have to see. Now let's head on to our second zone, number 2, which after we reveal this one, you'll 100% know what number 1 is. But for number 2, this one and number 1 are kind of a toss-up. I am really high on both of them, and they kind of flip back and forth on a day-to-day basis. But at this moment in time, number 2 is going to be Torture Fair, our New York zone for this year. Torture Fair, to me, seems like it's going to be really cool. It's kind of like a parody of a Renaissance fair themed to just torture and medieval torture, where Sinister are going to be our queen of the event and queen of that area, and really kind of making sure that all of these torture devices in this area are actually real and killing people that are at this Renaissance fair. So it does have a really awesome concept, and I'm interested to see how they pull it off. And frankly, it just seems like something that we haven't done before in a zone, so I'm fascinated to see how it's going to pan out. Which leads us into number 1. Now, I'm hesitant to put this at number 1 just because of what we've gotten in the past with these zones in this area, but it's just the props are really doing it for me. And that number 1 is going to be Swamp of the Undead. They have put out so many props in this zone that it's hard not to think that this is going to be a great zone. And with the potential of them putting that swamp fog effect in there with the lasers, it's just really making me hyped for it. And I'm super excited for this one. And honestly, people are like, oh, we've seen Walking Dead, we've seen this, we've seen that, but I've only been going since 27, and I haven't really seen a lot of zombie style zones or houses. So I'm interested in this. Don't get me wrong. I'm really interested in this. It seems awesome, and I love the theming for it, and I just could not be more excited for this one. I just really hope that it isn't an extreme bottleneck, but from what I saw in the park the other week, it's looking like it's going to be. So we'll have to see how it plays out. But this one, as of right now, is my number 1 for scare zones. But now let's move into our houses, our top 10 houses for this year for our hype list. And we're going to be starting it off at number 10 and working our way to 1. At number 10, yeah, this one is one of our 3 IPs that I'm just not really excited for. It's Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. I enjoyed the house at 29. I enjoyed the regular Ghostbusters house that we had at 29. But this one just, I heard that I heard that movie was not very well received. I enjoyed Afterlife, but I'm just not sure what to do with this one. I would have preferred them to do maybe 1 and 2 and not this newer era of Ghostbusters. I'm kind of, this could go up. It could definitely go up, but at this point, I'm just not extremely hyped for it, as I'm just not extremely hyped for the property, which is kind of the same for my number 9, and that's our other IP, or our second of our 3 IPs, Quiet Place. Never really been on board with this franchise. Didn't see the first movie, didn't see the second movie. I don't really have the interest to see either of them, to be completely honest. I'm gonna watch them because of having to do prep for Horror Nights, but other than that, I mean, I haven't really found the need to watch them. The concept doesn't interest me. This is also a very conceptual house that they're doing, where it's going to be quieter rather than loud, which is different for a Horror Nights house. They normally for Horror Nights houses really dive into that like loud jump scare. So this one's going to be a bit interesting. I'm interested to see how they're going to do it, and I'm interested to see, because their whole concept is that it's going to be changing throughout the event, which I know most houses do, but they're saying that it's going to be drastic changes throughout the event to keep it different every single time that you walk through it. So that's going to be really interesting, but it could lead to it being very weird and just not a lot of theming to it, and very kind of just like I said, I'm just not very hyped for this one. It's going to be at number 9. Now let's head on to number 8. And number 8 is going to be our first original, and this is the original that I'm least hyped for at this current moment, and that's Goblin's Feast. We kind of got something similar last year with Dueling Dragons. I like Dueling Dragons, but just the whole medieval kind of goblin D&D style thing isn't really like super horror for me. I know it's funny because I said Torture Fair was one of my more hype scare zones, but this one just seems like it's going to be more funny. Goblin's Feast seems like it's going to be more funny, comedic, which if you're going to do something like this, it's got to be scary for me to enjoy it, and this one doesn't seem like it's going to be very scary. I could be wrong, but as of right now, that's kind of what they're tailoring this towards. So it's not very interesting to me, at least. That's why I put it at number 8. Now number 7 is one that I know a lot of people are hyped for, but I just can't get behind it. I really can't. And that is Triplets of Terror. Yeah, I'm not really into hillbilly horror, so this concept is just really falling flat for me. I mean, Texas Chainsaw Massacre is cool, American Gothic is cool, but this is one that's probably the most boom or bust for me, similar to like The Darkest Deal was last year, where I wasn't too high on it when the event was being first revealed and everything, but when the event actually happened, then it jumped up my hype list pretty fast. But that's kind of where I'm at with this one, is that I could go through it and absolutely love it, but at my current moment in time with what we have as far as details for it, it's not really interesting me much. So let's move on to number 6, and this is going to be our last, or sorry, not our last IP, but an original IP, and that is Universal Monsters Eternal Bloodlines. Yes, Roman Reigns, we the ones. Yeah, Bloodlines. I don't know. I kind of liked last year. I really liked last year's Universal Monsters, but I'm just not sure how this one's going to play out. I listened to the Universal podcast today, and it did hype me up a little bit more for it, but the whole concept of Saskia and the Bride of Frankenstein, it just seems weird to me. I'm not sure if they're going to be teaming up or fighting against each other, or it just seems really weird, because I thought I initially had it down where I thought they were going to be teaming up, but after listening to the Universal podcast, I'm now even more confused. So we'll have to see how it plays out, but as of right now, it's just, I'm not very hyped for it, just because it's just so different, and it's not really, I would have rather them do more monsters rather than bringing in a Van Helsing. It's not really a Universal monster, really. It's just, no. We need a creature house before we needed this. That's all I'm going to say. But let's move on to number 5. Now, this is one that I would have put higher had I not gone out to Hollywood last year, and that's going to be Monstros, the Monsters of Latin America. So I did go out to Hollywood last year, so I've already seen this house. I'm interested to see how much it's going to differ from the one that was over there last year. I know we are getting the Lechuza animatronic that they had last year, so that's going to be really cool, but I'm interested to see how much it's going to differ from that house. Are they going to have a different path? Are they going to have different theming? Or is it literally just going to be a copy paste from one coast to the other? It is going to be interesting, but regardless, it's going to be a great house. I just have it in the middle of my pack right now for hype because, like I said, I've already seen it. But let's move on to the top 4. Starting off at number 4, and this is one that I am actually really excited for, but I just couldn't put it any higher than 4, just because the top 3 for me are just so set in stone for me. And number 4 is going to be Major Sweet's Candy Factory. Now, I loved Sweet Revenge at HHN 31. I thought that scare zone was fantastic. I thought it couldn't have gotten better. I loved the parade floats. I loved the characters. I loved the theming. Just everything about it was just traditional Halloween and just gorgeous. And I cannot wait to see how this house kind of builds off of that and just continues that theme and just really drives the point home. And this is one that I even speculated way back in January, so this is one that I'm 100% super hyped for, and a Willy Wonka style horror house is just what I'm looking for, which is why this is going to be at number 4 for me. But now let's head on to number 3, and this is where that last IP is going to slot in, as we have Insidious. Now, Insidious, I went through an Insidious house at HHN 27 for Blumhouse, as there was a section for Insidious there, and that section of that house was by far the scariest part of that house. It was terrifying. It was just, I was scared left, right, and center, and I cannot wait to see a full Insidious house and just be absolutely scared shitless the entire time. So I am super excited for this. I have only seen, I think, one Insidious movie, so I do need to get caught up on that, but just in general, this franchise and this series is terrifying to me, so I cannot wait to enter the red door and head into the depths and just really see all of the different creatures in the beyond. It's going to be awesome, and I cannot wait. This is so Insidious, number 3 for me. Now let's head into the top 2. So number 2 for me, this is one that we don't really know a lot about, but what we do know about it has me over the moon excited for it. This is something that I've really found interesting, and one that I'm like, yeah, that's an interesting concept. I'd love to see how they work with that, as it could work out phenomenally for them. So this one's going to be Museum Deadly Exhibits, as, like I said, super interesting concept, super meta concept. I'm interested to see where they go with this, because like I said, we don't know a lot about where this is going other than just the rotting stone being the main attraction of the museum and kind of how it affects everything else in the museum. How it's affecting them, I don't know, but we'll have to see. So this one is a really boom or bust for me, as the concept could be great, but the house could not deliver and it could drop it down my list, or the concept could be great and it hits that mark that I'm hoping that it's going to and just really knocks my socks off and it jumps up to number 1. But as of right now, I got it at number 2 because number 1 is just far and above my most hyped thing for this year, and was my most hyped thing since March, I believe, when it was announced, which is Slaughter Cinema 2. I loved Slaughter Cinema 1 in HHN 28, so when this was announced, I was over the moon. I was like, yes, this is what I wanted. This is what I've been waiting for. I love the first house, so please give me more random crappy B films in my life. Inject them in my veins. And we have already been kind of teased a couple that are going to be in this house, and so far from what I've heard, they sound fantastic. I literally, there is nothing else that I want out of this house than what has already been announced. I mean, it's gonna be awesome, and I cannot wait to finally walk through this in a couple weeks. It's gonna be breathtaking, and I cannot wait to just soak it all in. This house on its own is making me debate going on the 3-house tour. That's how much I am excited for this house. But that is gonna be it for our full breakdown. If you guys did enjoy this video, please comment down below and also drop a like. Comment down below though, what is your hype list? Because I'd love to know how your guys differ, or if you're kind of along the same lines as me. I'd really like to know down below, so leave a comment. But as always, I'm Michael from Holiday Thrills, giving you the all clear, and all clear means you're out of here. See you guys next time.